I've been able to generate over 1,000 demo requests and more than $5 million in pipeline created using LinkedIn conversation ads with an incentivized offer. I'm Silvio Perez, and in this video, you're gonna get a complete crash course on the strategy, the targeting, and the creative required to successfully scale demo requests using LinkedIn conversation ads. So with that, let's get into the video. Now let's talk through the strategy first. This is an amazing campaign for prospecting. Companies like metadata.io have leveraged this one tactic of using LinkedIn conversation ads with an incentive to generate millions in closed-won revenue. Now, the idea behind this campaign is you are reaching out to your dream prospects, whether they meet a specific ICP or happen to work at a certain company or a mixture of the both. You're reaching out to these ideal customers and you are offering them an incentive, such as most common examples being an Amazon gift card or a DoorDash gift card, some sort of incentive for them to take the time to actually get on a demo with your company to learn more about your product. When thinking through your incentive to offer within your LinkedIn conversation ad, you're gonna wanna take into consideration two things. Number one is who is receiving the message and what will be the most valuable for them. The better you understand them, the easier it is gonna be to think through ideas of incentives that will resonate for them. The second thing is you're gonna wanna think about fulfillment. How easy will it be for you to deliver upon your promise and give them what they signed up for? So the fine line between the two is usually the best solution. The most common examples of what's popular right now are gift card offers, digital gift cards like DoorDash or Amazon gift cards, because they're valuable and very repurposable, but also because they're very easy to be fulfilled upon. So when thinking through it, take those two things into consideration and just remember that you're not offering this incentive to just anybody. We'll get into targeting later into this video, but just know that this incentive is meant to go out to your dream customer, your dream prospect, somebody based on a specific set of titles or criteria that also maybe happens to work at certain companies. So rest assured, you're not Santa Claus, right? We're not just giving gift cards and free things to just anybody. Although if you want to do that on your own time, by all means. For the sake of this campaign tactic, we're trying to get conversations started with very specific people where if they got on a call with our AEs and they got a demo of our product, it could be a big deal for us in terms of creating pipeline and moving deals through and ultimately closing revenue. The primary advantage of using an incentive with your LinkedIn conversation ad versus not is conversion rates. You're gonna drive a far greater amount of demo requests from your ideal prospect by having the incentive versus not having it. What I've seen in my experience is the average cost per demo request, when you factor in the cost of the incentive, is still usually cheaper than not having the incentive in the first place, because the conversion rate is substantially greater by having the incentive. This is especially true if you're going after cold audiences. These people don't have any brand trust with you. It's gonna be really hard to get them to take a demo on the first swing. So by having that incentive, they know at the back of their mind that at the very minimum, if this demo is awful, they will walk away $50 richer with an Amazon gift card, or at least they'll have something like lunch paid for if you're offering a DoorDash gift card as an example. So I highly recommend that you leverage the incentive when possible, because the net gain is gonna be substantially greater by having it versus not having it. Also, another thing that I've noticed as well in my experience is a lot of the folks who take you up on your offer are a lot earlier in their buyer's journey. So your dream prospect is a lot earlier on. They may not be ready to make a purchasing decision, but they're willing to take you up on your demo because they're interested in your incentive and also interested in learning how you can help them, because this might be a product that they might one day use. So with that, if you have an amazing demo process and you get a lot of buzz and excitement and a lot of aha moments when people see your product firsthand, then it makes perfect sense to get as many of your dream customers to see your product as early as possible. And what we've seen is that because they saw your product early on and now your account executive has a relationship with that primary contact, they've been nurturing that relationship, 6-9 months down the line, when the person is ready to purchase a piece of software to help them solve the problem that you solve, instead of them having to go to Google search or Capterra and start from scratch, you are top of mind and they will reach out to you. And because you've developed that relationship, you better believe the velocity on that deal is usually a lot better than not having any prior rapport at all. Now, the biggest disadvantage, as you can imagine, when it comes to offering an incentive with your conversation ad is lead quality. Now, I actually created an entirely separate video on how to improve your lead quality with LinkedIn conversation ads, and I outlined some advanced tactics that you may not be aware of, so you can check out that video right here. But really, if you follow the best practices that we're gonna outline in terms of targeting, then you're gonna be okay. But measuring things like cost per qualified demo is gonna be really important for you to monitor with a campaign tactic like offering an incentive, so you can monitor cost per qualified demo over time and understand, using these conversation ads, what is your average cost per qualified demo? Is that going up or is it going down? And if you know it's going down, then that means you're doing a great job. You're driving more volume at a lower cost for qualified demos being booked. All right, so now that we went through the strategy, the advantages, the disadvantages around LinkedIn conversation ads, let's really talk about the targeting. Now, because we're offering an incentive, you have to remember people love free stuff, and the biggest disadvantage against us is lead quality. So we really need to make sure that our targeting is on point. So you're gonna wanna make sure you're using the proper targeting and exclusions, which I'll show you right now in LinkedIn ads. All right, so I'm here in the LinkedIn Ads Manager, and we'll be using a new tool that LinkedIn created called Audience Insights. It's an amazing tool to preview your audience ahead of time to understand who are you getting in front of before you even launch a single campaign. So it's really great. So to get started, head over to LinkedIn Ads, go to Plan Audiences, click Saved, and you're gonna click Create Audience. From here, we can set up our audience criteria just like we would if it was a campaign, but the difference being we can actually preview that audience beforehand and understand all different types of things about that audience, which is really great. So I'm gonna be brief on the LinkedIn audience tool because this could be a whole dedicated video. If you actually want a dedicated video jumping into this topic alone, let me know in the comments down below and I'll add it to my list of topics. Now, once we actually set up our criteria, you can actually just go ahead and click Save. It'll save it as a template, and then you can use that template in a new campaign, or you could apply it to an existing campaign. So it's really great. So to kick things off, let's first enter in our locations here. So I'll be doing North America, which is United States and Canada. Now, the first trap you're gonna wanna avoid is having recent or permanent. You're gonna wanna switch that to permanent to make sure that you're actually reaching people that physically live or work in these locations. If you don't select this, you'll be generating leads outside your target locations. Next thing is you're gonna wanna set the appropriate language for your profile. So I'll be targeting people in English, and you can see I have an available audience size of 220 million. But if I were to switch this to Spanish, that's gonna go down to 2.8 million. If I switch that to Korean, it'll go down to 130. So depending on the popularity of the language, the audience size will vary. If you have to target another language outside of English, just know that your ads should also be in that language, your landing page should be in that language, and that you're gonna have less flexibility on the audience criteria that you can narrow as well, because typically speaking, English is the most popular language, and outside of English, you're gonna have a much smaller audience size by definition. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this back to English here. Now let's go ahead and narrow our audience targeting first. So we're gonna wanna make sure that we dial in the targeting and that we dial in the exclusions so that we get in front of the right individuals. So in terms of narrowing our audience targeting, LinkedIn offers over 200 characteristics that you can use to nail down your target audience. It's quite substantial. So this could be a whole dedicated video, and I don't want to overwhelm you here. The most simple and effective place to start that I always recommend to customers when you're starting with incentivized offers is to just start with audience attributes, job experience, and then leverage job titles as a starting point. Job titles are going to let you get in front of a very specific person based on their current employment and the titles that they hold. One thing I will call out about job titles is that it's not perfect. So just because you put Chief Marketing Officer, so let's say I want to target a Chief Marketing Officer as an example, and I select that current title, that's another trap you want to avoid, is you want to make sure that it's a current title, not a past title, and not a current or past title. You want to reach people who are actively right now a Chief Marketing Officer. So make sure that this is set to current. But just because I put Chief Marketing Officer here doesn't mean that I'm only ever going to get in front of Chief Marketing Officers. The way LinkedIn does its targeting is based on the person's LinkedIn profile. If they have multiple open roles, it'll mix and match different criteria across those different roles. So imagine I was a financial analyst at a Fortune 500 company as one current role, but then I also had a side hustle with my own business that I was the Chief Marketing Officer at. LinkedIn can mix and match there. So it can say that I'm a Chief Marketing Officer, and then I also happen to work at a Fortune 500 company. So just know that it's not without its faults. But with that, it's still the best place to start. So go ahead and select all the titles that are relevant to your ideal customer that you want to be targeting. Now you can see here, just with the title Chief Marketing Officer, I have an audience size of 53,000, which is great. In terms of audience size recommendations, I recommend ideally 50 to 250,000 audience size, nothing more than 250. If you do have an audience size more than 250, that's usually an opportunity to get more granular and to combine more filters together so you can get a little bit higher quality audience. Now you can have an audience size less than 50,000. That's totally okay. You can go as low as 20,000, 10,000. As long as it's extremely high quality to you and it's worth it, just know that you will have limitations on how much you can scale and the amount of budget that you can put behind that audience. But as long as you're happy with it, that's the main thing, and you have the right expectations, that's key. So from here, we're going to do Chief Marketing Officer. I'm going to add in some additional titles here like VP of Marketing. I want to reach also Directors of Marketing. So I want to reach like Director Plus. But if you're doing LinkedIn conversation ads, I also recommend that you don't just focus on getting in front of the people that can make the decisions, so usually the executives and the senior folks. Also make sure you get in front of the people who would be the champion users of your product. Because if you can get them on a demo early, they can see how valuable it is. They can be that internal champion that you need that will sell the value of your product to the higher level execs on that buying committee. So that's just one key thing to note that I've seen work really well, to make sure that you just don't have the senior folks, but also the champions involved as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave these 3 titles here for the sake of example. And you can see I have 150,000 as my audience size, which is great. Now I wanna narrow this a little bit further because I'm not just interested in any chief marketing officer, right? Like this could be, Joe Blow who has his side hustle and it's a business of one, if you will. I wanna reach certain people with these titles in certain industries. So what I'm going to do here is before I move forward, I'm actually going to go ahead and click apply here, and let's see what LinkedIn tells us about our current criteria. So I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward to the parts that you need to know most. But again, this is an amazing tool. I can do a dedicated video on this. But what I really want you to focus on is if you actually go into member here and you scroll all the way down to job titles, we can see what is the makeup of job titles for this audience. So you can see on like the top titles that come up here is like head of marketing, marketing specialist, VP of marketing, vice president, chief marketing officer. So you can use this as a reference. Are you happy with the titles that you're seeing? If not, then consider making some adjustments. Also know that this tool is not 100% perfect, right? So you should use it as more of like a correlation than causation, if you will, and just use it as a just a way to gut check what you're getting in front of. But if you do see things like this, sales specialist, maybe that should inform an exclusion that you use. So for example, for an excluded title, maybe let's go ahead here and exclude the title sales specialist, right? We don't want to get in front of that. Another one too could be, let's say we don't want to get in front of chief officer. That's really broad, right? We want to get in front of chief marketing officers. We can exclude chief officer as a title. So this is an example of how you can leverage these insights to refine your audience targeting before you launch your campaign. Another great way to leverage this tool is if you actually click on company here, you can preview the companies that are in this audience. So you can see here, I have a whole bunch of different companies here. Now where this is really powerful is if I actually layer in here and I click narrow, I can layer in a account list. So I can upload an account list into LinkedIn or a contact list. So if I'm doing account-based marketing, I can upload that account list and then I can preview here. What are the companies that I'm actually getting in front of? Is that representative of my account list? And then you can make adjustments ahead of time, which is really great. So this is going to allow you to make sure that you're really getting in front of the right people. So what I'm going to do here for the sake of simplicity as well is if you actually scroll down here, I want to look at the employee count. So you can see right now, based on my current targeting, I have 17% of people that have 2 to 10 employees, 2% myself only, and you can kind of see the distribution here based on employee counts. So I'm going to go ahead and actually adjust my exclusion audiences here because this is a little bit too broad for me. Even though it's 69,000, I don't want to get in front of myself or 2 to 10 employees, etc. Now, in terms of job titles, I highly recommend that you add as many job titles possible. LinkedIn supports a total job title count of 100. So the more the merrier, as long as it's relevant to you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually adjust my exclusions. So the first exclusion audience that I recommend that you leverage is excluding any company characteristics. So like any employee counts that are irrelevant to you, you should exclude that. So if you actually go here to company size, I can exclude people that are self-employed, myself only, or 2 to 10 employees, and it'll get rid of these, people that fall into this 19% between the two. That's going to really help. Now, Next, what you can do as well is you can actually go ahead, and I recommend that you exclude any employees. So if you go here to company again and you go down to company names, you can search your company and exclude anyone that works at your company. We love our employees, but they should not be seeing our ad and not be receiving our incentivized offers. The same goes for competitors. Let's say Google was a competitor of mine. They're not, but just as an example, I can put Google as a competitor. And you're gonna wanna make sure that you have this set to current jobs. So people who are currently employees are currently working at your competitive companies, so you can exclude those individuals. So by doing this, excluding poor fit titles, right? Poor fit companies, whether that's based on size, industry, excluding competitors and employees, and then leveraging job title targeting, this is going to allow you to be a lot more granular and exact. Now we can take this job title targeting further. So right now we only have the 3 titles. We can expand on that. And then we can also add in additional characteristics as well. So another great combination that's extremely precise is if you leverage job titles and member skills. So I am interested in B2B marketers specifically. So for me, I want to target people that have these titles, but also have B2B marketing listed as a skill on their LinkedIn profile. And you can see this dropped my audience to 15,000. This is going to be hard to scale against this. I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of budget behind this, but I know the people that are in this 15,000 are going to be extremely high quality, and I will feel comfortable giving them an incentivized offer. So this is how you're going to want to leverage this tool to make sure that your ad is getting in front of the right person, to guarantee as much as you can that you go out of the gate getting in front of the right audience. And then from there, you can really make sure to make adjustments as you go. As you start to generate leads, you can always add in additional exclusion audiences. You can refine your criteria. And then over time, if you need to scale more outside of adding additional job titles, this is where you can start to look into things such as leveraging other job experience characteristics, such as job functions and seniorities, and member skills is another great combination, especially for account-based marketing. So once you're happy with this, you just go ahead and save this, and then you can apply it to a new campaign or to an existing campaign. If you have any other questions on audience targeting, audience insights, anything like this, drop it in the comments down below, and I'm happy to do a follow-up video. I hope you're finding this video valuable. If you wanted more content around B2B advertising, then go ahead and check out adconversion.com and subscribe to the newsletter, where you're gonna get sent 2 to 3 actionable tips on paid advertising every single week. Over 1,000 plus B2B marketers have already joined, and I would absolutely love to have you there. So with that, let's get back into the video. We talked about strategy, we went through the targeting, now finally, let's talk about the ads. Now, if you want to create LinkedIn conversation ads that actually convert, you're gonna need to dial in 3 things. Number 1 is the sender. Who is the message coming from? Number 2 is the message itself. How is it formatted? Is it value-based? Are you using spacing? Is it legible? And then finally, number 3 is the offer itself. What do I get in exchange for interacting with your conversation ad? I'm a busy person, so what's in it for me? When it comes to choosing the right sender for your conversation ad, I recommend that you first start with an influencer. If you have access to an influencer, somebody that's very well known in your space, they don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers, but somebody that's got recognition in your industry, whether this is somebody you work with internally or maybe an external subject matter expert that you partner with, and they can be the person that the conversation ad is coming from, this is always gonna resonate the best because people recognize their name. So when they see that person in their inbox, they're gonna say, oh my God, I got a message from so-and-so, and it's gonna have a much greater open rate. Now, if you don't have access to an influencer, that's totally fine. Most folks don't. The second best option that I've seen work is an industry peer. So somebody that works in a similar job function, somebody that has a relevant job title. So when the person sees this person in their inbox and they see their job title, they're not like, you know, if I'm in marketing, they have a job title that's in marketing, versus if I'm in marketing and I see somebody with a job title of like equipment manager, my first thought is gonna be, who is this person and how is this even remotely related to anything that I'm involved with? And then finally, if you don't have an industry peer, your third best bet is a salesperson. So some sort of account executive, and you can have them be the sender, sending the message to all these different folks. Now, I wouldn't say that because you have to use an account executive, does it mean that you're not gonna find success? I've actually seen in some unique instances where certain clients, having the message come from a salesperson actually converted better than an industry peer. So at the end of the day, you're gonna wanna test each one if you can, see what works best for you, but generally speaking, this is the priority that I've seen work in terms of driving conversions. When it comes to choosing the best offer for your LinkedIn conversation ad, you have two things at your disposal. The first is the incentive, and the second is the type of offer itself. So when it comes to the incentive, this is what you're giving people in exchange for choosing to take the time to set up a demo request. So if you're, for example, doing an Amazon gift card, test that against another type of incentive, such as a DoorDash gift card, or maybe something completely different. It doesn't have to be a gift card. But once you've dialed in on that offer, let's say you've tested that and you're like, hey, Amazon gift cards outperform DoorDash gift cards, the next thing at your disposal is you can test different price points within that incentive. So for example, a $50 Amazon gift card versus a $75 Amazon gift card versus a $100 Amazon gift card. Is the difference in what you're paying for the incentive worth it in terms of conversion rates and additional volume that you're generating? And ultimately that cost per qualified demo, is it still trending down in the right direction? So that's the primary lever you have at your disposal, which is your actual incentive. The second lever you have at your disposal is the type. So this is a landing page versus a lead gen form. In my experience, lead gen forms outperform landing pages across all ad types, across all campaigns for social-based advertising in B2B. So I always recommend clients leverage a lead gen form when possible, because you definitely will drive more conversions. If you're scared when it comes to lead quality and intent and things like this, you can add custom questions to your lead gen forms to pre-qualify. They're a very versatile tool that you can use to make sure that you're getting the right person filling out that form. And again, if you haven't checked out that video, I highly recommend you do after this, where I go more into detail with all those advanced things with lead gen forms and how to improve your lead quality video for LinkedIn conversation ads. Now, if you want to write LinkedIn conversation ad messages that actually convert, you're gonna need a couple of things. The first is it must be skimmable. If your ad is a wall of text, I promise you, no one is gonna give you the time of day to figure it out what you're trying to say. I know I won't, and I probably feel like you feel the same way. So it has to be skimmable. I need to understand in 5 seconds or less what is going on with your message, what it is you have to offer, and whether or not this is something I need to engage with. So if your ad is not skimmable and it's not easy to read, it's not formatted, there's clear spacing, there's white lines creating separation, making it more legible, then nobody is going to give you that time of day. So you have to make sure it's skimmable. This is probably where most people get wrong. The second thing is it needs to be personable. Conversation ads gives you a unique opportunity to go into somebody's inbox and to create a relationship and have a conversation, no pun intended. So using different macros on LinkedIn conversation ads, you can personalize your message at scale. So at the very minimum, you should have hey first name as a best practice to personalize your message. The third thing is your message must be value driven. You have to say things like you versus us. You need to speak to your prospect and put yourself in their shoes. It should be very, very clear and obvious, painfully obvious, what is the value you provide. I don't care about these other companies and these logos and all these awards you have. What can you do for me? How is this going to improve my life? How is it going to take me from this point of suffering to a point of bliss? So it must be value driven. And then finally, you need to have a strong and clear call to action. You need to end your message with a clear CTA of saying, hey, so-and-so, if you're interested, here is the next step. Tell people what you want them to do. There's a great book by Steve Krug called Don't Make Me Think. Take the same approach when it comes to your conversation ad. Don't make them think, make it very obvious what is that next step. Let's go ahead and walk through some examples of LinkedIn conversation ads that I have personally received offering an incentive. And we're gonna grade these conversation ads based on the sender, the message, and the offer. The three components that every successful conversation ad has to dial in. So this first message that I got here, let's first grade it based on the sender. Who is this message coming from? So this is coming from somebody that is the head of product management at a company called Quirvy. Now, I am a head of product innovation at Metadata. So when I see the title product management, that's related because I do work in product and marketing. So I kind of work in two different worlds, but a product related title could be relevant to me because I do work in product. So they check the box there. I don't personally know this person. So this isn't an influencer. This would be what I would consider an industry peer, somebody that works in product like I do. So they nailed that. So good job on the sender of who they chose. The second thing is the message itself. So the best conversation ads are very easy to read. They are skimmable. They avoid walls of text. They're easily formatted. They use emojis and personality and character. And they have effective call to actions. So on the message, if I had to grade this from 1 to 5, I would give the message, just looking at the formatting, a 1. Because this is a massive block of text here. You can see this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different lines. Ideally, no more than 2 lines per sentence. We want to create more white spacing. That's going to make this much more digestible. If you have a lot to say, you can break up that text using bullet points, or even just like emojis, like fingers pointing towards different points to give it some more personality. So the formatting can definitely use work here. And then as far as the call to action goes, we can see again, this was an opportunity to create some formatting. You could have, created some space between interested in this sentence. They're offering a $50 meal delivery gift card. I think that's a little bit vague. I think it would have been better and gave this offer more power if they were specific, like a $50 DoorDash gift card or a $50 Grubhub gift card. I understand why they wanted to be vague, but specificity is much better in terms of conversion. So that's just another slight micro feedback there. And then also going into the CTA labels, there's no expression or life. Honestly, they're very generic. It's yes, don't know. Capital K. So I think there was an opportunity here to give this more expression, like yes, exclamation mark, I'm ready, or not sure. Add a little bit more personality behind these CTA labels so that it could be more effective. And then finally, I kind of already talked about this, but on the offer piece itself, $50 meal delivery gift card. Let me see what happens when I click yes. So if I click yes, they added in a second message here that has 3 quick qualification questions. So I really like this. I love how they are trying to qualify me with the second message and then offering the, I'm assuming if I click yes here, the lead gen form will appear. So that's great. I think that's really great that they offered the lead gen form on the second message versus the first. This is a great tactic if you want to try to improve lead quality. But again, going back to the message itself, like this is another wall of text, right? We can do better. We can try to create some more formatting, some more spacing that's going to make this more skimmable. So all in all, definitely biggest areas of improvement for this conversation ad is the message itself. And then they can make some refinements to the offer, try to make it a little bit more specific. And I think they would have been a much better off in terms of trying to get this message to convert. This next example is from a company called Workato. I received this conversation ad from them. And let's go ahead and run it through the criteria. So sender is the first piece. This is coming from somebody who is growth at Workato. That is a relevant title. That's a relevant function. I am in product, but I'm also in marketing and growth. I'm kind of weird. I do multiple things. So in this case, it resonates with me. This title from this individual isn't completely off base where, let's say his thing was like farmer or something like that it just completely, not in my scope of reality. So this checks the box. So sender is check. I would consider this an industry peer, not an influencer, and not a salesperson. So from here, the next thing I want to look at is the message. Is it clearly formatted? Is there white space? Is it skimmable? Is it value-based, right? Is it benefit-driven? Are they saying things like you versus we? So let's go ahead and look through that. So first thing I can see when I look at this, I haven't even read any words yet, is there is clear white space. So you can look at the difference between this message and how they formatted it versus that first message that we saw. They don't have blocks of text, which is really great. On this last line, they did go to 3 sentences versus 2. I think this is an opportunity to create spacing here. So this fill out the form below to see if you qualify. I think they could have put this on its own line. I think they could have also added in like some sort of down arrow pointing at the button label below, or some sort of like finger pointing below to give it a little bit more, emphasis on taking that action, and then also to create some additional white space. It would have better formatted the message. The other thing I will mention as well, this is a common mistake people fall into with conversation ads, is you need to get to the point as soon as possible. Like, I really like that this person is trying to be nice and, formal, if you will, in terms of like introducing themselves, but like no one cares. Like, this is the truth. Point the finger at me, but I'm just speaking to the metrics and performance. Like this line here, they could have just axed. Like, it was not necessary. Nice to meet you. I'm the director of growth here at Workato. Like, that's redundant information. I can see based on your title that you are in a growth function at Workato. Like, unless you are some sort of super famous person, like you are the president of the United States, but even then you probably don't have to put that because it would be in your job title. So just try to avoid introductions. Like, this is just irrelevant text, and that's an opportunity to just cut that from your message to get straight to the point even faster. So in terms of the formatting of the message, I really like it. Last sentence could be much better. Value-based intro and the headline is, I would really poor. I think there's definitely an opportunity to come out here much more aggressive from the start. Like, hey, Silvio, struggling with X. Are you looking for help with Y? Some sort of like hook. The hook could be a lot better here, right? It doesn't really get into the meat of things until the bottom. And to be honest, like, looking through the actual value through the message, I don't really understand what they can do for me. So it's like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm the director of growth here. And then it kind of just gets straight into like what the company provides. But I don't still understand how this company, they haven't linked their value proposition with my pain point yet. So there's a disconnect. And because of this disconnect, the chances of me actually engaging with this ad are very little. So they might have a strong open rate, but the click to open will probably fall short. So the value, I think this message could definitely be rewritten to be more value driven and more benefit oriented. And again, connect that pain point to your value prop. It's great that they put social proof here, right? Like, they have some pretty notable logos that use their tool. But again, that disconnect is still just not, I'm not there yet, right? So in terms of the message, I think the formatting is great, but the content itself can definitely use work to make it more value oriented. And then finally, on the offer piece, their offer is a Bose soundbar or a $250 gift card. They have a really, really strong offer. A Bose soundbar is different. Everyone offers a gift card, so that instantly makes them stand out to me. And then also the fact that they give you the option of a $250 gift card, that is a substantial amount. They're really putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak. So that definitely stands out. The offer is strong here. And then you can see in terms of the button labels, I think, like, again, I don't even know what this means, build integration 250. So I know they put build your first integration with an expert. I get what they're trying to do, but it's too complicated, right? Remember, most people skim. They're not even to get here. So, it should be a little bit more like obvious, like, yes, book my demo, etc. So even if I never, like, you should assume people will never read. This button only makes sense if I read this last paragraph, which most people won't. It's just the truth. They'll literally come here and it's just like in milliseconds, they'll skim your message. So I would be more clear, like, don't be clever, be clear with your CTA labels so people understand what it is you're trying to get them to do, even if they didn't even read your message. So if I actually click on this, it opens up the lead gen form on the first message. They're using a lead gen form, which is great. It's definitely going to convert better than a landing page, just in my experience of what I see. And then I like too that they have a tell me more button. This is great to give additional information. So if I'm not ready, you can further, answer any objections ahead of time of like why I may not be ready to take that action. One other thing I do want to call out on this message that they did better than the first message is they actually used the companion banner, and the companion banner is a Bose soundbar, which I thought was clever. I didn't get it at first when I first opened up the message. So I think, instead of just putting a Bose soundbar, maybe like adding a graphic that's like get a free Bose soundbar would have been more appealing. So, because again, this only makes sense if I actually read your message, right? So the big assumption here is I'm actually reading your message. And because you buried this in the last message, the last piece of the message, this is a great opportunity to put this in the first line. Hey, Silvio, would you like a free Bose soundbar? I don't know, something like that, right? So then all this would tie a lot sooner and make more sense. So all in all, I think the sender, great. The message, the formatting is awesome. Could be better, but it's not bad. But the biggest miss here for me is the CTA labels, be more specific, and then finally more benefit oriented, get to the point sooner, right? Like, don't introduce yourself. No one cares. I'm sure you're a great person, but get to the point as soon as you can. For this final example, let's look at a LinkedIn conversation ad that I received from a company called Mutiny offering an incentivized offer. Now we're going to grade this ad based on our three components. The first is the sender, the second is the message, and then finally the third is the offer. The three critical components that you have to dial in if you want your LinkedIn conversation ad to actually convert. Now looking at the sender first, this person is the head of marketing at Mutiny. This is a related title. They passed the sender test. I work in product and marketing. I'm a bit of a hybrid. So this works for me. I see this person's title and it's not completely off base. Now, if this person had a title like, head of equipment or head of logistics or chemical manufacturing or, head of AI, I don't work in any of those functions. It's kind of outside of my day-to-day reality. So that message from that person wouldn't land with me per se. So the sender is great. It's related to me. So good job there. Moving on, let's look through the message. I haven't read any of the words yet, but the first thing I want to call out is the white space. Remember, the best conversation ads, they don't look like walls of text. They are skimmable. It's easy to read. It's digestible. There's clear, nice, elegant formatting. Never assume people will read your whole message. And you can see here they have nice separation between their lines that gives it that much more skimmable feel. Now, the next thing I want to call out is how they get straight to the point. They put here, hi Silvio, so they're using that first name macro for some dynamic personalization, which is great. I'd like to send you a $100 Amazon gift card. Straight to the point. This piques my curiosity. So I know, hey, well, wait a second. I like free things, right? So that's going to catch my attention. It's going to get me to read the next sentence. Now, going back to the previous example of the other conversation that we received, this person just said, hi, Silvio, and then went into the next sentence and introduced themselves. And this person had a stronger offer, in my opinion, because they were offering a Bose soundbar or a $250 gift card. So if this person would have said, hi, Silvio, I'd like to offer you a Bose soundbar or a $250 gift card, that would have, attracted me and piqued my curiosity and kept me along for the ride. So going on with this message here, they have 4 lines here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One other thing I want to call out is this person put, I lead marketing at Mutiny. You don't really need to introduce yourself with conversation ads. I like the way they did it though, because they tied it in with their sentence where it makes sense. But again, like if you're going into a whole dialogue of like, my name is so-and-so and I'm the head of marketing here, no one cares. Like, get to the point. But in this case, they kept it short and they tied it with the message. So I think it works well. So they put, I lead marketing at Mutiny, and then they go straight into what is Mutiny, because that's the first question I have is what is Mutiny after reading that line. A no-code platform that helps the fastest growing unicorns such as Brex, Amplitude, and Segment create personalized experiences and increase leads by 3x. So I love how they got straight to the point of what they do. They also embedded some social proof of logos that they work with. Now, the only critique that I have is I think this sentence can be simplified. There's a lot of big words in here. And again, if we can get straight to the point faster, simplify the message, I think it will land better. So because this is a little bit blocky, this is 4 sentences. If we can try to constrain it down to 2 sentences, ideally, no more than 3, but ideally 2, it would land better, right? This would be less intimidating to the receiver to actually read this and understand your value prop. And you really want to make sure if there's any message that somebody reads, it's your value prop, because that's going to get them to understand how your problem, your value prop can solve their pain and connecting that, right? Now, on that, they get into the pain point here around this third part. So again, going back to the formatting, they could have, created this into a separate line to that way it's a little bit more skimmable. It's a little bit blocky here. It's 3 sentences. You can tell I'm like a crazy person when it comes to the formatting with the conversation ads, because it's such a big deal in terms of getting it to be actually read. So it says here, I'm sure you're in the midst of 2022 planning, so I'd love to show you how Mutiny can help. Take a quick meeting with us and I'll send you a $100 Amazon gift card. Interested? The biggest miss with this conversation ad, and a huge area of opportunity outside of just formatting, is the pain point. Never in this message did they talk to me about the pain point. I get what Mutiny does, but I don't understand, like, they haven't called out the primary pain point that I might be going through. Like, for example, I'm sure you're in the midst of 2022 planning. I'm busy. I'm planning for 2022. Like, why do I want to get on a call with Mutiny? You know what I mean? So, like, I think if they could call out a little bit more clearly what is the pain point specifically, like, hey, are you struggling with increasing your leads by 3x? Like, I'm sure you're in the midst of 22 planning and your targets are increasing. You know, if getting 3x more leads is important to you, like, you know what I mean? Like, summarize the pain point and connect that to your value prop. I think that's the biggest miss here in this message. But I really love, other than that, you know, this is definitely the best message of the examples that we have seen. And then you can see here finally, I even love how they put a PS here. This is something I do myself. And they added some urgency. So like, PS, we have a limited number of gift cards available, so act fast, which I really, really do like that. And then finally, I love how they are taking advantage of those companion banners. So they have this companion banner here on the right, and you can see it says, learn about Mutiny and get a $100 Amazon gift card. I don't even have to read this message, and I can just look at this companion banner, and I can understand, hey, like, what is the point of this ad, right? Like, what is the value here? What is the offer? I have a $100 Amazon gift card that I can get if I want to go learn about Mutiny, right? And then also I love how they put it here in the message as well. It gives it the message so much more life. So biggest call outs with this message, I would say, again, the formatting, try to simplify things, try to sound like, don't be smart, just be clear. And then also, if you can, try to state the pain point a little bit more obviously. I get Mutiny can help me, but like, if you can call out specific pain points of where you could help me, I think it would be even better. You like, don't assume people are going to tie the dots for you. And then finally, is there's no emojis in this ad. I think that's an area of opportunity where you could really make this a lot more personable and better formatted and easier to read and more personality is if you add in some emojis where possible. You could even add emojis into the CTA labels to make it even better. Those would be some slight criticisms. Now, in terms of interacting with the actual buttons, I love the CTA labels. Yes, exclamation mark, I'm not sure. Amazing, right? Much more powerful, much more interesting versus like the first example of, you know, very generic yes, don't know, etc. It gives it more life. Now, if I actually click yes, they open up the lead gen form on the first message. Fantastic. All in all, best ad so far that I've seen across those 3 examples. But even this, I hope you see how we could even make this better, and how adding all this together is where testing comes in, and you want to be testing different variations and so on and so forth. Hope this video was valuable. If you can give it a thumbs up, that will help me out a ton. And if you want to be notified of future uploads, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you want more content around B2B advertising, then go ahead and check out adconversion.com and subscribe to the newsletter for 2 to 3 actionable tips on paid ads every single week. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.